Do you want to know what happens when chimps and gorillas meet? Do you want to know how strong the bite of a Komodo dragon is? If you don't, get out your bum. Please leave my channel. But if you do, let's go to the zoo. Did you know that all cheetahs are so closely related to each other that you can do an organ transplant between any two members of the same species? This is actually because at the end of the last ice age, about 10,000 years ago, cheetah populations crashed, much like most other large mammals at the end of the Pleistocene. And while cheetahs made it through, they didn't make it through without consequences. And one of those consequences is them being extremely inbred. While cheetahs are often thought of as hunting smaller prey like hares and gazelles, cheetahs also, in coalitions, will hunt prey such as zebras, ostriches, and wildebeest. These coalitions can be up to 5 males strong. So cheetahs are far from the runts that they're made out to be. In fact, they're very accomplished hunters and they're very powerful predators. They have a higher success rate than any other large cat. Hippos have extremely sensitive skin, so they'll only go out at night to avoid the African sun to feed, which is why the worst time you could possibly encounter a hippo is in the morning, especially between it and its water. When overheating, hippos will secrete this blood red substance from their skin, and in addition to helping them cool off, it also helps to clean their skin of bacteria and has antiseptic properties as well. In order to mark their territory, male hippos will actually just take a dump and then swish their tail in it, sending poop just flying all over, and it's really just a boss move, you know? Such a boss move from the male hippos. While the only continent that lions can be found in large quantities on today is Africa, at one point in time, lions ranged all across southern Europe, Asia, the Middle East. In fact, at the time of Jesus' birth, there were still lions in the Balkans. And while lions are savanna predators, they can also be found in several other places you wouldn't expect. For example, in the Namib, lions actually hunt fur seals and live along the coast eating stuff that comes in from the sea, like whale carcasses. Even penguins in some regions fall prey to lions. Surprisingly, despite all of their differences, every single species of big cat today can hybridize together. In fact, lions have hybridized with every single one besides the snow leopard. So there's lion leopard crosses, the famous lion tiger ones, lion jaguar crosses, so on and so forth. And big cats have even been known to hybridize across subfamilies. So we can even see leopards hybridize with mountain lions. Now, whenever I tell people that my favorite animal is the spotted hyena, I'll always get this weird reply where people are like, oh, they're just these filthy scavengers. Someone here even called them a nasty little creature, which just made me infuriated. Because, in fact, spotted hyenas hunt just as much as other large carnivores like lions do, and they're better at it. They're actually better at hunting than other social carnivores like wolves and lions, and they don't even hunt in a group most of the time. In fact, they hunt on their own, and the reason for this is that higher ranking members are allowed to just steal kills from lower ranking members, and lower ranking members usually have to eat bones, other stuff like that. Their teeth show a lot more wear. This means that even a higher ranking cub could chase a lower ranking hunter off of its kill. And the highest ranking hyenas in the clan, while maybe not the strongest or even the most intelligent, are determined by who can get the most allies. So the highest ranking members of the clan aren't the strongest or the smartest like most other animal societies. They're actually the friendliest, which is fascinating because the most dominant hyenas have these networks of different allies that they use to help topple the clan hierarchy. Now, clans can number over 100 individuals, and they all know each other by sight, scent, and sound. Even the laugh that they produce is different based on your rank in the clan. Part of hyena society is also determined by who you're born to. Queens can have dynasties that last for generations. And these dynasties are locked in this constant power struggle for control. Now, hyenas, despite being portrayed as unintelligent or stupid, are actually very intelligent and can even outcompete chimpanzees on tests of problem solving, especially socially, which is really helpful because they need to know how to manipulate and work together as a team in order to survive as a clan in such a difficult environment like the African savanna, where they have to deal with lions, other clans of hyenas. They're really quite intelligent animals and quite beautiful. The hate is very misplaced. I could go on about them for ages. Nile crocodiles are Africa's deadliest predator. They kill hundreds, if not thousands of people every year. And they can wait for over a year for prey to migrate through. They have a very low metabolism, and they can go for months on end with no food. Chimps are our closest relatives, and with some of our good attributes come the bad. Chimps can exhibit just the same things that humans do, with malice and greed, but also are extremely intelligent and affectionate animals. One example of their intelligence is the fact that chimps in the wild have actually been known to hunt gorillas. As crazy as that might sound, chimps will work as a team to attack an entire family of gorillas and will separate the infants from their parents and will oftentimes eat the young gorillas that they capture. Silverback gorillas, which were conveniently not out today, are actually excellent fathers and excellent family parents. Now, gorillas will live in these troops where there's usually one dominant male and his harem of females that he mates with. Now, even if an infant gorilla's mother dies, their survival chances are actually pretty high because the silverback will actually step in and help raise the infants. And usually when you see them in the wild, most of the time they're just eating, but they also love to play with their babies, and usually they have children scrambling all over them all the time. Now, male gorillas can be aggressive when they need to be. Male gorillas are aggressive when they need to be, but most of the time, they're very passive animals. I'll play a video here for you guys of a gorilla beating its chest. I guarantee, this is not what you were expecting it to sound like. In addition to being the longest lived, Aldabra tortoises are also the largest animal on the islands that they call home. And they basically fill the role of a large herbivore, like a cow or an elephant even, by tearing down trees and bushes and creating clearings and game trails that help all sorts of other smaller animals to live on the island with them. Poison dart frogs don't actually make their own poison, surprisingly. They actually get it from eating poisonous ants. So captive poison dart frogs that aren't fed those ants will just come out completely normal. Geckos, including these leaf-tailed geckos here, actually don't have eyelids, so they have to lick off their own eyes to keep them clean. The Komodo dragon is the world's largest lizard, but despite this, its bite force is actually less than that of a house cat. So, how are they such formidable predators, you might ask? They take down wild boar, deer, even water buffalo. And that's their neck muscles. This baby, you can't really see it as well here. He's adorable, love him. But if you look at an adult Komodo dragon, their neck muscles are insane. And that's because when they bite into their prey, they basically use their neck muscles as like a giant arm to just rip off hunks of flesh, while their jaws don't do that much the work. So, in essence, the Komodo dragon is basically just ripping off chunks of meat using its neck. Now, Komodo dragons also have to bite through their gums when they eat. Fun fact, they have serrated teeth that are iron coated, and they slice through their gums every time they eat. But it regenerates every time as well, and it regenerates very quickly. Much like its larger cousin, the Komodo dragon, black tree monitors like this guy actually do have venom glands. Not harmful to humans, but they do have venom glands. Instead of using toxins or other stuff like that, Amazon milk frogs will actually secrete this weird milky substance when predators grab them. Did you know that alligators actually have bones in their skin? They're called osteoderms, and they're basically like armor plates to keep them safe. Now, alligators are really interesting because they're one of the few crocodilians that lives in cold climates some of the time. They can actually brumate, which is sort of like hibernating during the winter. Unlike most reptiles, rattlesnakes and quite a few other snakes actually give live birth, which is very strange, but their eggs actually hatch inside of their bodies. Now, if you hear a rattle in the desert southwest, you might think it's a rattlesnake, but it's not always. Actually, there are a lot of snake species that will mimic rattlesnakes in an effort to scare off predators. Proportionally, the arms of a sloth are over 3 times as strong as that of a human. They're so strong, in fact, that sloths can actually just stay hanging when they die. A flamingo's bill is downturned in just a way that they can scoop up plankton, all sorts of stuff like that. And using these ridges on the sides of their beak called langellae, they filter out all of the water, and their tongues are actually covered in spikes as well. I'll show a picture for you guys. White rhinos are the largest of all of the rhino species, and while rhinos may seem superficially similar to other large mammals like hippos and elephants, rhinos are actually in the clade Perissodactyla, with horses and tapirs. For a long time, we thought the stripes of zebras existed to try and blend in with the herd and avoid being noticed by predators. However, now we actually think that the stripes on zebras are used to break up their outline and make it more difficult for biting flies to detect them. Wildebeest might just look like a cow, but they're actually a species of large antelope. When bull wildebeest fight, they don't fight like cattle do. They actually get on their knees and do what's called a mud dance, where they'll get on their knees and start battering their horns against each other. When a giraffe is born, it gets dropped from about 6 feet in the air. Now, even a newborn giraffe is over 5 feet tall, and a newborn giraffe can run within about an hour of being born in order to protect it from all sorts of different savanna predators. Now, giraffes' spots are used for camouflage, but they're also used for another very important purpose, and that is cooling off the giraffe by exposing the right blood vessels to UV radiation. Big animals have a lot of body mass and generate a lot of heat, so giraffes are perfectly adapted to not overheat in the very hot, dry conditions that they usually live in. Even their tongues are black to avoid getting sunburnt. In order to become so tall, the giraffe's body had to modify in so many ways. Their hearts expanded, and they even have a net of nerves right behind their brain that prevents all of the blood from rushing down when they bend over to drink. But this can lead to a few other wonky designs. For example, the laryngeal nerve in giraffes is over 15 feet long. Instead of just taking the shortcut, it loops all the way around from the brain and back into the throat, as you can see here. Hornbills, like these wrinkled hornbills here, will give each other food as a mating display. And the reason for this is that for several months, the female basically locks herself inside of a tree hole while she's watching over the eggs and the chicks, and the male has to come every single day and offer food to her because she literally locks herself in by building a mud wall around her to keep it predator proof. Slender-snouted crocodiles have extremely slender snouts for pulling prey like lungfish out of their burrows, and in order to hunt, they'll actually swim along the shoreline and paddle their tail, forcing fish up onto the shoreline where they're easier to catch. African penguins like these guys do just fine in the Tampa heat. In fact, in the wild, they actually have to worry about the heat instead of the cold. It can get so hot that whichever partner is protecting the egg needs to go and cool off in the freezing ocean current, or else they'll literally die of heat stroke. Each Asian elephant has its own unique facial pattern. Some of them are tiny and some of them stretch all the way across the face. Now, Asian elephants, as I'm sure you know, have ears shaped like the country of India, whereas African elephants have ears shaped like the continent of Africa, which is one of the main ways that you can tell them apart. But did you know that Asian elephants are actually more closely related to woolly mammoths than they are to African elephants? In fact, baby Asian elephants, I'll put up a picture right here, literally look like baby woolly mammoths. They're covered in dense hair that eventually falls off or fades away as they grow older. Unlike African elephants, where males and females both have tusks, the way you can tell male and female Asian elephants apart is that females almost always never sport tusks. Cats are one of the few mammals on Earth that can use infrasound, which is making sounds so deep that humans can barely hear them. And even while not being able to see them, humans in the presence of tigers describe feeling sick and uneasy, oftentimes from these noises that we just can't detect. This male here is a Sumatran tiger. Now, Sumatran tigers are the last of a group of tigers called the Sunda tigers. There used to be 3 different varieties of them, but only Sumatran remain. Sumatran tigers can get over 300 pounds, but can also get under 200. When it gets hot enough, like today, anteaters will actually use their huge bushy tails as a sort of fan or like a bush to create shade for themselves. Now, anteaters, despite their relatively docile nature, can get into fights over territory. When they do, they use their scythe-like claws to slash into each other. However, anteaters usually prefer to avoid fighting and can actually smell the saliva of other anteaters on different termite mounds. And if they weren't adorable enough, baby anteaters, who ride on their mothers' backs by the way, actually whistle with their mothers to communicate. Orangutans aren't actually herbivores, and they'll actually eat smaller primates when they're given the chance. Now, those huge cheek flanges that male orangutans have, only one male in a specific territory can actually have those. And until that male dies or is displaced, the other males won't even grow them in. As you can see here, in the intense heat, kangaroos will actually lick themselves so that when that saliva evaporates, it helps to cool their blood vessels. Now, a kangaroo can have 3 babies at one time. That's one huge advantage their pouches give them. A female kangaroo can be pregnant, have 1 baby in and out of the pouch, and have 1 newly born baby suckling inside of the pouch all at once. Now, I hope you guys all enjoyed my little tour here. I'm going to start making content like this more often because I love telling you guys about different weird, wild stuff with animals. But stay tuned, like and follow.